Welcome back to the number one Knicks podcast in the world, Big Knick Energy Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Dressler. Unfortunately, we're not going to be with Joe Yoke today, but we have another special guest here today on my birthday, no less. So, hey, for my birthday, smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. We have Brett Hanfling, the host of the Fireside Knicks podcast with Empire Sports Media. Brett, thanks so much for coming. How you feeling today, buddy?
Thank you for having me. My birthday present to you is my present. I didn't know it was your birthday, but there it is. I'm doing good. Listen, if we recorded this last night at midnight, I was hot. I was not doing so good. So I'm happy you gave me 12 hours. It's almost noon on Saturday. So I'm doing better. It's a beautiful day. You can't let these losses affect you too much.
Yeah, man. What can you really do? Sometimes you kind of have to digest the Knicks losses. Takes a little bit. I totally get that. I want to kind of just jump straight into things, just because the last podcast we had a very special guest. We had BJ Bass, who's NBA players agent, who I have a close relationship with. So we didn't really have too much of a chance to speak on the West Coast trip where the Knicks went 3-2. I guess, Brett, what were your major takeaways? Were you surprised by the record that we came out of that week and a half with, or what were your major takeaways on that road trip?
Yeah, so going to that road trip was a 5-game road trip. Knicks kind of teetering. Some people even writing that Tibbs might not come back from the road trip. I didn't believe that, but I saw like Jonathan Macri and Tommy Barrett kind of saying those type of things. All things considered, did well. Went 3-2, beat Utah, beat Denver, no Jokic. They lost to the Suns, they lost to the Warriors, and then they beat OKC. Listen, they had to get a couple wins, and they got 3. It was pretty impressive. But it's hard not to think about last night when I'm thinking about this total West Coast trip, because all kind of the good vibes coming home from that trip were kind of washed away last night. And I don't know if we want to jump to it yet, but just, a Portland team without Damian Lillard, without their best player, have a chance to put something together and get a win and lose a tough game in overtime. But, to go back to the road trip, we saw some really good things. Jalen Brunson came alive, and he was having a solid season, but I feel like he took it to another level on that West Coast trip. Yeah. Shot the ball really well, took it to the hoop really well. There's that stat that everyone keeps throwing around every game pretty much. I don't know what it is. I don't know if you know what it is, Brad. It's like 5 to 12 feet. He has the most buckets in the league.
90%. He shoots like 90% from that range or something to that effect. It's obnoxious. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jokic is second. I love that Brunson is above Jokic on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we saw Brunson kind of become the leader of this team. Coming to a new team with, a roster that's more or less set in place from last year. It takes a couple of weeks to really get your foothold. And he was good before that, but I think on the West Coast trip, he became our leader, which was great to see.
Yeah, for sure. I just wanted to quickly pull up the stats from last night. Just bear with me a moment.
Yeah.
He crushed it, man. He absolutely crushed it. As you said, he has kind of become that, not only a vocal leader, but also a leader on the court, which I love to see. I've been singing his praises. I can't tell you. I started with Daily Knicks in November, December of 2020. I shortly thereafter took over in January as the editor, but I think one of my first articles, as a matter of fact, was the Knicks should go trade for Jalen Brunson, and for a number of reasons, especially with Tibbs being in the house, Leon Rose being in the house. This is prior to his dad obviously joining the coaching staff as well, so that gives even more reason for it. Stat line of 32, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Would like to see, listen, in a 32 point game, you can't really ask for too many more assists, but I'd like to see him be a little bit more of a playmaker there. But 10 for 22 from the field. And as you mentioned, finishes at the rim, within 12 feet at a ridiculous rate. I think at some point last year, and I'll give it off to you in a second. I think at some point last season, for the entirety of last season, he finished in the 98th percentile at the rim which was it literally, if you look at the names of like the best guys finishing at the rim, it was just a bunch of centers, and then all of a sudden you
Yeah.
see six
It's,
foot tall
it's
Jalen
like
Brunson.
Jokic, Giannis, and Jalen Brunson.
Jalen Brunson. It's absolutely absurd. But yeah, no, he had a hell of a game. You know,
Yeah.
Jalen
And
Brunson is him. Go ahead.
yeah, I mean, as the kids say, Jalen Brunson is him. And just to go back a little farther, so I pulled it up. So in Utah, he was 10 of 20, 25 points. Denver, 7 of 13. He had one bad game in Golden State, but then he was 11 of 21 for 27 points, 14 of 20 versus OKC in a game they had to win for 34 points, and then followed up a 32 last night. And just to go back with your assist thing, I think you said he should be having a little more assists. I kind of saw it last night that he's saying, I got to be the guy. He's saying, we don't really have the scorers that a lot of these other teams have.
Yeah.
He doesn't have Luka Doncic on his team. So
Nice.
I saw him kind of take it upon himself, which mostly I'm happy about. Listen, you want your point guard to be, dish the ball and get everyone involved, but you also need to win games and you need to score points. So he was, waving people off. He was taking people to the lane, especially late in the game. He said, we need someone to score points, and that's going to be me. So yeah, I'm thrilled about that.
Yeah, especially when, I can't knock Julius this season. Like all in all, I think that he has played better than last year for sure, especially from an efficiency standpoint. Um, we could talk all day about RJ Barrett and his struggles. Like he has the most inflated stats I've seen, like averaging 20 points a game, but it's just like he's just looked like a shell of himself. Just to quickly recap the Portland game, and then we'll kind of get into the Knicks and RJ and so on and so forth. I feel like Anthony Simons always cooks the Knicks for some reason. I'm not entirely too sure why. I think he's better than anyone the Knicks have today, even Jalen Brunson. I feel like Jalen has a little bit more he has a better basketball IQ, I should say. Like he's more in his head. A lot of guys like to say he plays the game from the neck up, and I feel like Anthony Simons is just a more skilled player.
Yeah,
He always cooks the Knicks, like I said. But then, of course, we have the Jeremy Grant situation. Ken, what did you want to say about?
no, just that Simon's point. It's a good point. Simons is super talented. I would say I would take Simons on like a crappy team just to like someone to go get you buckets. But I feel like Brunson could actually take a good team to another level. But just it's a good point. Simons, he's averaging 24 points a game.
Yeah.
Almost every team has young, talented guys. I mean, I don't want to get too deep, but almost it's frustrating. Almost every team you can look and they have these young guys who are really emerging. And I'm not sure if the Knicks have it, but we'll get there.
I mean, I'm as big a fan of Leon Rose as there is, right? And I think that him and his staff, particularly Walt Perrin, Alex Klein is another one that I like, and I know he does a lot of great work in the front office as well. I feel like these guys have done really well, especially with where they've been drafting. I mean, listen, 2 years in a row, back to back, they drafted a guy that is a legitimate NBA player at 25th overall. That's not easy to do, But then for them to turn around and also get a bunch of guys in the second round, especially last season, that are legit NBA players. Deuce McBride is a legit NBA player. Rokas Jokibitis, it's yet to be seen, but he looks pretty good. And then of course Jericho Sims, who played big minutes down the stretch last night. That was a lot to see. The problem is that we don't have the longevity that these other teams have, being small market teams and having to build through the draft. So they've geared so much more towards that direction. That's kind of why you get guys like Anthony Simons late in the draft and turn him into a borderline all-star caliber player. Another guy I wanted to touch on real quick. Did you have something to say? I'm sorry.
No, I cut you off when you were talking about Jeremy Giannis meets Kobe Bryant Grant.
Bro,
I don't know if you finished.
On. Like,
I don't know.
Jeremy Grant looked like Michael frickin' Jordan last night. 28 free throws. That is obnoxious. Just like, I understand we're not like the best defensive team, but there's an officiating problem last night. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I would say partly. I don't think we have anyone right now who's good enough like wing / forward to guard him. Like Randall's not giving enough effort. Also, it's not quite quick enough. RJ Barrett, I think, has lost athleticism, is not quite quick enough. I mean, listen, he had the most free throws of anyone in any game this season. So that seems a little off when you have Giannis, when you have John Morant and these guys flying in the hoop. Did he deserve maybe 20? Maybe, which is a lot and which is killer, especially because he's a pretty good free throw shooter.
Yeah, it's just you don't expect those types of games. It's one thing that I tweeted out last night from the Big Knick Energy account was Tom Thibodeau, the defensive mastermind behind the 2008 Boston Celtics championship team, gives up 40 points to no names every single freaking time I watch this team play. And it's really getting to the point where I'm leaning off the Tom Thibodeau bandwagon, to be honest. Like I'm very far from it. In fact, I think that they should move on sooner rather than later. What do you think?
I'm not like a fire this guy type of fan. Like, even when we had some bad coaches, I was never too quick to fire them. The Giants have had all these bad coaches. I didn't really want Joe Judge from the beginning, but I always like to give these guys the benefit of the doubt. You don't have the roster, let them finish the season. I am so done with Tibbs. I don't know if I want to do full RJ Barrett thing, but this RJ Barrett thing, the past 8 games has swung me fully off Tibbs. RJ Barrett has been so inept over the last 7 or 8 games. He is shooting abysmal, not playing great defense, taking bad shots, forcing things, not getting teammates involved. He played 44 minutes last night. He was 6 of 22. He didn't play good defense. Like, I get you're not going to bench him, but you could cut his minutes. We got to win these games. Like, this is a game you have to win. And, someone in my mentions was like, Tibbs is doing it because we're not making a run anyway. Tibbs is not tanking. Tibbs is gone if we don't make the playoffs. So I don't think he's doing that for that reason. Quickley, another thing with Tibbs, I think Quickley started off the game great last night. And then, I get he's not going to start the second half, but the first 7 minutes of the third quarter, he didn't play. And then he kind of lost his rhythm and he had a shitty second half. Obi Toppin, what did he play? 14 minutes last night. Obi's having his best season of his career. He's shooting threes, even though he's struggling a little the last week. I just think it's tough because I do think we're a deep team. We don't have the star talent, but I do think we're a deep team. So it is tough to manage the rotation. But I do think every step of the way, he's not getting the best out of these guys. He's not holding Julius Randle accountable. He's not holding RJ Barrett accountable. Like, if Julius Randle, there's plays where you kind of just see that he's lazy, and we could talk about Randle. You got to hold him accountable. Like, if you're this defensive mastermind and you're supposed to be this tough ass, like, hold him accountable. I'm really off the Tibbs bandwagon.
You could say that we really missed Cam Reddish last night, especially when it came to defending Jeremy Grant, because if you need a guy that's, at the very least, not inept on defense and is able to actually get in front of somebody, especially with the kind of length that Jeremy Grant has, a 6'8", 6'9" guy who does have, some guard skills as far as, off the ball, on the ball as well, I should say. Definitely miss Cam Reddish there. And I was number one, like, Cam Reddish is out of the rotation guy. Like, I was calling for that all off season, and I couldn't be more wrong. I guess
Brad, I was right. I was right with you with Cam Reddish. Yeah. I thought potentially he wasn't an NBA player. Really, I don't know if it's our fault because there was nothing to hang on to last year that showed this. Like, I don't even think like I was missing it. It wasn't there. Like, he wasn't playing like this. He's long. He has good. The thing is, he's taking the ball to the hoop. He has good body control. His Euro steps. He's got long arms and long legs, and he actually gives a shit. Can I curse? He actually gives a shit on defense, which a lot of this team doesn't. Partially because he knows this could be his last chance at being part of a team that you're getting minutes on a team, but he cares, and I can't wait for him to be back. He's a big part of this team.
Yeah, he's I really wish that we had him for the last few games, in fact, because he has played exceptionally well. But I have always said that the idea of Cam Reddish is maybe better than Cam Reddish himself, because he is that 6'8", 6'9", prototypical small forward, can play a little bit of 2, can play a little bit of 4. You can put him in a bunch of different lineups. Maybe easily one of the better perimeter defenders on the team today, which is a lot of fun to watch as well. But his buddy his buddy RJ Barrett.
Oh,
He's, again, if you just look at him from a pure stats perspective, he doesn't look terrible. He's been still pretty good as a rebounder this year. Obviously, he's averaging right around 20 points a game, which is where you want him to be. For some reason, for a guy that was the primary playmaker in Duke, you don't really see him getting a lot of assists. It's almost as if he lands on that 3 spot every single time he's out on the court. But from an advanced analytics perspective, the kid has looked awful. I know you have a lot that you want to say about RJ Barrett, so please go ahead and take the mic.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even from an advanced analytics perspective. It's from an eye test. It's from, listen, you say the stats are good. When you look at, when you factor in field goal percentage to stats, they're not good. He's averaging 39.4% from the field. You can't have the guy who takes the most shots on your team shooting 39% from the field. You can't. It's just, you're not going to win games. I think he looked slow. I don't think he's looked athletic the last 3 years, but I think he looks extra slow this year. I don't know what it is. His ball handling's not tight enough. He's getting no separation. Pretty much every drive is either it's so tightly contested that he's looking for a foul, or he has to shoulder the guy and just get a little space to get a jump hook. There's no explosiveness. There's not much creativity. It's all tough. The buckets that he makes down low are tough. They're tough angles. Listen, his 3 ball is down this year. That I'm not as worried about, I guess, for some reason. 26%. Is that true? Is that real? That's rough. I mean, you have to be able to shoot the ball in this league.
And after the preseason, I had everybody talking about how he's going to be a marksman from deep, which is hilarious because as soon as the regular season started, it's like he can't hit the broadside of a barn. I have a cool little stat. Well, not cool. It sucks actually. But another influential Jew, Fred Katz of The Athletic, conversations. This is a tweet from last night that I saved. Conversations about RJ Barrett's shooting struggles usually center around his jumper, but Barrett has missed too often in the paint during this cold streak as well. Only 5 of 14 in the paint tonight. Now, when you have a guy that's built for the NBA with an NBA ready body from the age of 19 and only getting bigger, only getting stronger, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense why he's struggling, especially at the rim. We want to compare him to the Jimmy Butlers of the world. There's there's a number of other guys that you can sit there, and maybe DeMar DeRozan. There's a number of guys that you can sit there and find similarities to, but I feel like it's more in his head than anything. I think RJ Barrett thinks he's better than he actually is.
Well, that's for sure. There was a play at the end of the game. Well, it was the last play of regulation where I guess we were down to something like 7 seconds left, and RJ came to the ball like he was going to be the guy, and Brunson ran over, and it was kind of awkward. But 2 things with that. I think it's partially in his head. Yes, he's in a slump. Anyone who's played basketball, it's partially in his head. He partially thinks he's better than he is. But because he's taking bad shots. He's forcing things. Even when he's having a bad game, late in the game, crunch time, where we need a big bucket, we need to take something slow, he's taking bad shots. There was one play yesterday where he drove into the lane. Obi was wide open on the left side. RJ took a contested right-hand layup that wasn't even close. And you could see Obi's face. He was frustrated. He kind of slapped his hands down. You kind of see that his teammates, I don't want to say they're turning on him, but there's something churning where they're like, you're not him. You might be half him if you get better, but you don't deserve to be taking the most shots on this team right now.
More like a hit.
Yeah, him.
The hit.
It's tough to watch, and Tibbs is letting him. I don't know. I genuinely do not know if Tibbs is not seeing what's happening or if he just wants him to fight through it, because it doesn't make sense. I know Tibbs wants to win ball games, so why is RJ Barrett playing a team high 44 minutes last night?
I think. And my co-host Joe, he kind of alluded to this several times, and I think that there is some truth to it. Tom Thibodeau is 65 or something like that. Doesn't have a wife. doesn't have kids, doesn't have grandchildren. The bulk of the Knicks roster are are right around where his grandchildren would be of age. How does Thomas Thibodeau relate to a bunch of 20-something-year-olds when he has no reason to, right? So I think that his brand of basketball is just like the read and react offense and the beat me with your left hand type of defense. It just doesn't work anymore. Like you see a lot of these younger coaches, notably Will Hardy, uh, having success at this level sub 40 years old. And there's a reason for that. You know, you look at the Brad Stevenses of the world, even the new coach
the
with
OKC coach also. He's the owner. He's like 37. I forget his
yeah,
name. It's
man.
like
You know,
Dinglet or
there's a
something.
lot of guys out there that are just young and just get it. You know, I always point to Sean McVay, you know, just to kind of cross over into football. The guy is one of the brightest football minds there is. You also have this new guy in Miami, Mike McDonald, so on and so forth. I think that's his name.
McDaniel. Yeah.
McDaniel. You got me. All these guys, there's a reason why they're finding the success that they are, you know. Another young guy that I just want to quickly touch on before we go into the second half of the show. Our friend of the show, friend of the brand, Tommy D. I'm sure you're familiar.
Yeah.
He actually tagged me in something really interesting today, and I kind of want to go through the thread and then kind of hear your takeaways from that, if that's cool. This is because you mentioned you have some words about Julius Randle. He has played better this year for sure, but let me go into it and then you'll kind of give your takeaway. This is really interesting that he tagged me in this morning. So the aforementioned group that closed the fourth quarter of the game last night, it was Quickley, Brunson, RJ, Randall, Sims, has a defensive rating of 165.2 and a net of minus 51.6. Now, subbing Toppin in for Randall in that same lineup would give you an offensive rating of 107.3, so substantial difference, a defensive rating of 78 in comparison to 165. And then a net rating of 29.3. Okay.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And the last comment that he mentioned was this is a clear example of why Obi and not Randall in an instance as there's been. So, takeaways.
Yeah, I mean, that's crazy. First of all, those numbers. I imagine there's not too large of a sample size of that just because how crazy those numbers are. And because Obi's not that great of a defender, I'm surprised it changes that much. But the Obi Toppin thing is puzzling. It's frustrating. It's maddening. You draft a guy. What did we draft him? 5, 6, 7,
Obi?
I think. Yeah,
eighth.
7, I think, 8th. Draft the guy 8th, and listen, he wasn't ready his first year, and even his second year, but he's grown. This is his best year so far. He's developed a 3-ball. He cares. He wants to win. He tries hard. The Garden likes him. His teammates like him. It's such like a simple. All these factors go well with Obi. Now, I don't want Obi playing 35 minutes, but what's he playing? Let's see. He's playing 18 minutes a game. I think he played 11 or 12 minutes last night. And he is a guy that talk about getting ahead. I think he was in his head last year. I think when he starts missing some shots, he is in his head. So he is a guy that if you're yo-yoing his minutes all around, he has a good game where he plays 22 minutes. And then next game he plays 13 minutes. I think someone like him more than anyone, it's hard for him to get in a groove. So yeah, I mean, that defensive lineup, I don't know how it's that bad.
Is that nuts?
That is nuts. Because who was it say again? Quickley, Brunson, Randall.
Brunson, Randall, RJ, Sims.
Yeah. I mean, I have an RJ stat here from Tommy Beer. The Knicks are allowed. So the thing with RJ's overall game is defense has been pretty good in the last couple of years. It hasn't been good this year, and this stat will show it.
Piss poor, yeah.
With RJ on the court, the Knicks are allowing 117.6 points per possession. With him on the bench, 100 points per possession. Per 100 possessions, a 17-point difference. I mean, he has the worst Raptor rating of all players that have logged 500 plus minutes. So when you pair that with Randall's defense, and the thing with Randall is he should be a good defender. He's strong as hell. He, just has pretty good instincts. He just, he can body people up. You would think he's a good defender. And sometimes he is. Late in the game, sometimes he is when he actually cares and he, takes a matchup personally and we need to stop, he does. But there's just too many times where he just takes the play off. He points. There's like fast breaks where, he'll tell someone else to get that guy, but it's like, dude, it's your guy. Like he's in front of you, but it kind of takes the easy way out. And then you could kind of point to confusion. Yeah, I mean, listen, the Knicks' road to making the playoffs is the Knicks are not going to be a top 10 offensive team. They don't have the firepower. They could be, let's say, 15, 16. The road to making the playoffs then is being a top 10, top 12 defense. That's where they have to hang their hat. And that's what they did 2 years ago. So it's not going to end. Some of these guys, I think Quickley's playing good defense. And I think Sims is playing good defense. I know Tommy. What was Tommy tweeting last night? Did you see was that about Sims? He was just tweeting the plus minus of a player.
Beer or D?
D. He was just tweeting. He was just tweeting like -8, -10, with no context or anything. I think he doesn't like Sims. I like Sims. I think Sims has been good. We thought he was not going to be a factor this season. I think he is super athletic, has a great body, can jump really quick, and plays with energy.
Can't find it. But neither here nor there. I mean, Tommy's a brand of his own. Love the guy. Me and him don't necessarily agree on everything per se, but I do really respect everything that he does have to say. I'm not really too sure about that, but yeah. Oh, here -3. Mitchell for Sims, even -3. Oh, he's funny. +5.
But I don't even know what this is about. I don't think he ever. I think he was tracking a single player's plus minus without mentioning. I think it's Sims. I don't think he likes Sims.
Neither here nor there. So, one player that you mentioned before that I kind of want to, in a sense, close out the show on, in this direction. Immanuel Quickley has played well defensively, arguably one of our best perimeter defenders. It's got to be a three-way tie between him, Grimes, and Cam Reddish. Plus, he aside from a few really crummy games here and there, he's looked really good. He's looked really good, especially on the offensive side. At one point last night, I think he scored 8 straight points for us, just back to back to back. Yeah. And it was just like, all right, hey, this Immanuel Quickley, baby. So recent reports out of the Athletic mention that I guess before we even get into that, what is your overall stance on Immanuel Quickley / the Knicks potentially shopping him?
I love Immanuel Quickley. I have a home on Quickley Island. I think he's great. I think he has developed into a really good defender because he's really quick. He's got good instincts. He cares.
No pun intended.
True. There's so many times where the Quickley puns come up. I've said this a lot about some players or the opposite, but he cares defensively. He hasn't shot the ball well this season, but I'm not worried about that. You can see from, first of all, his first 2 years, he's a great shooter. You can see from his free throws. When a guy's a really good free throw shooter, and I don't have the stats. I think he was in the upper 80s last year. That extends to 3-point. He's just been a little off this year. I'm not worried about that. I think it sounds kind of crazy. He's potentially been our, third best player this season. I'd like him to play a lot more minutes. I'd like him to get in the rhythm shooting. There was a lineup yesterday in the first half. It may have been the end of the first quarter. It was Quickley, Grimes, and Deuce. And they were going at it defensively. They were locking down. Excuse me. And then we didn't see it the rest of the game. Excuse me. So as you can hear, I love Quickley. So when I saw those reports come out, and it's not even like a targeted reports. We're going to dish him off for a late first. We're not getting a top 10 pick for him. What would be the point of that? It pushes the road. It pushes the can down the road. Like we have all these kind of late first with protections up in the air. Like I'd rather have Immanuel Quickley.
He was at 88% from free throw. last year.
I mean, that shows touch. You're an 88% free throw shooter. You're a good 3-point shooter, pretty much. Some guys can't send.
Yeah.
So his slump, his is actual slump. He's going to shoot the ball. He's going to shoot the ball well the rest of the season. You don't think so?
He shot well. So he did shoot well from 3 as a rookie, on pretty nice volume. Last year, 30 on sub 35%, which you definitely want to see more out of him. And then this year so far, 32%. So it's been rough, but nevertheless, I mean the kid's a bucket. Here's my stance on it. If they trade him for a first, that's moving. That's hustling backwards. There's really not a sense. There's no point in that. The only reason I could see that being a thing is because we're getting into the realm of a perfect example would be Atlanta, where it's like we have a lot of really good young guys and you can't really pay all of them, so you eventually have to either trade them off for lesser packages like Cam Reddish, or get rid of Kevin Huerter after you paid him. Go ahead, bud.
Who's balling this year? Kevin Huerter.
I love Kevin Huerter. Yeah. Listen, he's that kid. I love him. I really wanted the Knicks to get him even out of the draft. So neither here nor there. The thing is with Quick and all these other guys is, so there's not really a ton of star potential trades on the horizon. Like I can't see a reason. There's one team in the NBA that has more first-round picks over the next 7 years than the Knicks. Do you know who that is?
Okay, see.
Why the hell are they going to trade Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for picks to us? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. It's just unrealistic. I was really hoping that Phoenix would fall apart and we have a chance to get Devin Booker. I was really hoping that the struggles for Philadelphia were going to continue. Maybe we can get our hands on Joel Embiid within the next year's time. Things are just never going to happen,
The Booker thing, I would say more possible than Embiid.
Yeah, no, for sure. But you look at situations like Chicago, Zach LaVine. I mean, listen, if they were to give up like a package, I did one the other day. I used to have a lot of fun with these trade machines and articles and stuff like that. What makes sense is whatever, some combination of first round picks, probably in the realm of 2 or 3. Because of his contract and because of his health, plus Immanuel Quickley, Derrick Rose, and Evan Fournier equals Zach LaVine. The Knicks are in a position where they do need to consolidate assets. They do need to, cut some of the depth a little bit just to make it make sense. But is Zach LaVine that guy? Is he gonna? I just really don't know. I think it would make more sense to trade Quickley in a package for a star, even if it were Zach LaVine, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but even if it were him, it makes more sense to do that than just get another first round pick. But in fairness, we have guys. I mean, look, Cam Reddish potentially needs to get paid if we're going to keep him, which it looks like we are. Obi Toppin needs to get paid next year. Immanuel Quickley needs to get paid next year. And then we just paid Mitchell Robinson. We just paid Jalen Brunson. We just paid RJ Barrett. A year ago, we just paid Julius Randle. We just gave Isaiah Hartenstein a 2-year contract, so on and so forth. You follow where I'm coming with this. A lot of guys that are having to get paid, you can't pay all of them, So it's like making those trades sooner rather than later doesn't make a lot of sense. But does it make any sense to move him for a first round pick? I don't personally think so.
No, I don't think for first round pick. I get the consolidated assets thing. Because like I said before, we're deep. We don't have the top talent, but I do think we have this depth of talent with this arsenal of picks. To me, it would be frustrating if after all these years of kind of gunning for a star, if it was Zach LaVine after all this, something like that. I know you're kind of just throwing that out there. And Zach LaVine's a good player. I just, Donovan Mitchell, I don't want to harp on it, but it seemed like it's now more than ever. It seemed like that was the guy.
That was the guy. That was absolutely the guy. The thing is that if this front office believes that it's going to be here for the long term, and by the long term I mean another 2-3 years at this point.
with the Knicks, that is long term. That's
right. Considering that they've had 3 off seasons, if they get another 2, that would be considered long term. But my whole thing is the only sense it would make to do a trade for Immanuel Quickley is if they're looking to, again, like you said, kick the can down the road, but then put themselves in a position where they can trade for somebody next year or the year after that, and then potentially sign someone in 2025. That could be a thing, because realistically, if you look at the landscape, the next time that there's even a potential decent free agency class would be 2025, because the rest of the guys have all already been signed. That could be a play. Maybe Jalen Brown.
I'm too impatient for that. Like, we've been waiting so long, and I know, like, at the same time, you can't just make it happen right away. But we've been waiting for these guys for years, and it hasn't happened. And you said what stars available. I doubt any stars available this season. With the way the NBA is these days, you don't know who could become available in the offseason, though.
Right.
I don't even know who to say, because there's guys that you just don't think of that just shit happens.
Pop up.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Karl Anthony Towns, who I don't know how I have mixed feelings about him. I don't know. There's guys out there. We have the assets. The next one that becomes available, yeah, I would love to make a run, because this is a Stars league, and the Knicks don't have one.
My concern, and then we'll kind of end it on this. In a second, we'll end it on this after one last question. But my concern is that come July, the Knicks are going to have 3 first-round picks from the look of it. If Washington keeps playing the way they're playing, we're going to have our own first-round pick. 1 second.
Yeah, I forget the
We're going to have our own first-round pick. We're going to have Dallas's first-round pick, and then we're also going to have potentially Washington's. Detroit's isn't going to convey. That's the top 18 protected, but Washington is only top 14 protected this year. So that one could potentially, but they're currently sitting at 10-8, if I'm not mistaken, which is a game over us, or 2 games over us, or something like that. And yeah, I mean, those picks could potentially convey. So what do we do with 3 first-round picks? We have one guy coming off the books guaranteed, which is Derrick Rose. But other than that, I mean, we already have 11, 12 guys, 11, 12, maybe even 13 if you consider Deuce McBride. We have 13 guys that are worthy of minutes. What the hell are we doing? We're paying Evan Fournier not to play. It's crazy to me, So yeah, they're in a tough spot. But one thing that I did want to close out on, considering that we're both kind of on the same page, where it's like, could we trade Immanuel Quickley? Yeah, if it was the right package, sure, right? Do we want to just trade him for a first-round pick? I think you and I are both on the same page, where it's like, no, that's probably not the best idea. Which young players should the Knicks be willing to part ways with other than IQ?
Well, so the thing is, I love Obi from like a heart. Like, I just like Obi. I think he's fun to watch. Like, I just like the kid. And I think he could be a solid player in this league. I think he could be a good contributor. He's not going to be a star. I'm pretty sure about that. So, I don't want to get rid of Obi, but for the right package, if a team liked his upside, sure. Listen, RJ Barrett, if we're going big game hunting, the thing is, I don't know how teams would think about RJ Barrett now, but I rather do like an RJ Barrett and a couple picks than a Grimes, Quickley, and OB and an extra pick. That's like kind of what it was in the offseason. So if a team still kind of covets RJ, and it's sad for me to say, because listen, I've been down on RJ this podcast. I just want to say something. I like RJ. He's a good kid. We picked him at number 3. He was supposed to be our guy, and maybe he still will, but he was supposed to be our guy, our first real star in a while. We picked him number 3. But if RJ could be the main bait in going big game hunting, listen, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. A lot of people had a hard time stomaching the idea of losing RJ in the Donovan Mitchell trade, but who knew? Who would have foreseen this season starting the way it is? I want to say that, how do I put this? I want to say that his being involved in trade talks, for what we knew for a very short period of time, perhaps he knew for a little bit longer. I think that it may have affected him a little bit more negatively than we would like to admit. He does have a tendency to kind of start seasons off slow, but 20 games in, I haven't seen him be this slow. So neither here nor there. I want to see what he looks like, 30, 35 games into the season, and then I'll kind of make my determination what it is that I want to do. I don't know. We'll have to see where that takes us. Closing thoughts,
Yeah,
Brett.
just last thought on RJ.
Sure.
I hope he's great. I hope he's great. If you're hearing me for the first time, if you don't know who I am on this podcast, you think I'm an RJ hater. I'm not. I've been disappointed. I think his minutes should be ticked down a little while he's not playing good. Listen, the Knicks just paid him $120 million. So I really hope that he turns it up. He's the star that we always thought he would be. And I hope the Knicks, we're 8 or 9 and 10, 8 and 9. I hope the Knicks pick it up. I want to make the playoffs. I want to see playoff games. I'm a fan that likes to watch a good, fun team. We're not getting a top 5 pick. They're too good for that. We're not getting that. And people in my mentions are always like, we're not winning the championship. Let's tank. We're not getting a top 5 pick. We're not there. So I'm hoping we turn it around. I appreciate you having me on. And, we'll see what happens this season.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun. I really do appreciate you coming on, especially for my birthday. Again, my birthday. Smash that subscribe, smash that like button. Let's go. I deserve it, guys. Right? Yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun. We have who's on the docket next? We're playing what tomorrow?
Yeah,
I'll find out right
I
now.
was just looking
NBA.
at it.
We got the Grizzlies in the Garden tomorrow at 6, and then we have the Pistons. We always wreck the Pistons, but
we just play the Pistons like 23 times.
yeah, right. That'll put us in the driver's seat. But yeah, man. Brett, where can they find you, buddy?
Follow me on Twitter, Brett Hanfling. I also Fireside Knicks. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, definitely. As always, you can find me at Brad Dressler 24, at Big Nick Energy _ on Twitter, at Big Nick Energy on Instagram. I think we're doing a giveaway soon. Vinny, can you attest to that? You there? Yes, we are. We are doing a giveaway soon. We have an extra Kith Knicks shirt, so details soon come. Yeah, subscribe to the YouTube channel to be in that, and we'll get you guys some more information on that. But with that said, yeah, have a happy Saturday. Thanks for coming. I really do appreciate your time. As always, follow us on Big Nick Energy on all platforms. Happy just past Thanksgiving as well. And wish me a freaking happy birthday, y'all. Thanks,
Happy
guys.
birthday, Brad.
Thank you, Brett. Appreciate your time. We're out.